අතර බ්‍රිතාන්‍යයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහකොමසාරිස් වෛද්‍ය ක්‍රිස් නොනිස් මහතා පොදු රාජ්‍ය මණ්ඩල සමුළුවේ මාධ්‍ය මධ්‍යස්ථානයේදී මාධ්‍ය හමුවකට එක්වමින් මෙලෙස අදහස් පළ
I think we've had an extremely successful Commonwealth Youth Forum, Business Forum and People's Forum and Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. But what is particularly important, in addition to the country delegations that have come to attend CHOGM 2013, is the fact that this has been attended so well by the world's press, in addition to the Commonwealth press alone. And I think this is an opportunity for us to enable us to show you the reality of contemporary Sri Lanka, and as we take on the chair of the Commonwealth, to be able to really forge a very strong identity for the Commonwealth. So now I just open the floor for any questions that you might have.
David Cameron's statement last morning, was just not cricket. You don't come to a host country and insult or threaten the host country and its president with ultimatums. His exact words were that he would take us to the UN Security Council using his mandate to do so if the report wasn't delivered by March. Your comments on that, please.
Firstly, I think the CHOGM is actually a forum for all Commonwealth countries. It is not a forum for bilateral dialogue. The bilateral dialogue can happen in the parallel sessions, but certainly I think the most important thing about a CHOGM is that it should be really for dialogue between all Commonwealth countries. We also fully understand, of course, that at the political level that there are some countries which have a substantial, wealthy, powerful and extremely large diaspora, and that can sometimes control the fairly negative and anachronistic narrative towards countries like Sri Lanka. If you do take some of those countries, some of them, Britain is one of them. So we fully understand that each person has their domestic political constituencies and their own considerations, their own electoral compulsions, and some comments that are made, of course, are made in that context. We fully understand that. After all, they're all politicians.
South Africa or Northern Ireland were not hauled into the UN Security Council despite their atrocities. What would the High Commission in London do about David Cameron's statements and his intention to punish Sri Lanka?
Essentially, we understand why certain statements are made by particular countries, by particular leaders, whether they want to boycott the summit or whether they want to make very strong statements, because we understand that the driver is very much a very strong diaspora. And there, I hasten to add, I do not demonize the diaspora. Many people demonize it. But I think the majority of the diaspora, perfectly educated, perfectly decent people who mind their own business. It is only a small percentage of the diaspora within these countries who have made terrorism a business, and they funded it. And now that the conflict has ended, what they're doing is turning a percentage of that funds towards lobby groups, towards opinion leaders, towards think tanks, and in some countries towards legislators and parliamentarians. That is what we realize. And it is that influences. Even if you look at the great, the substantial negative publicity, even in the UK, some people quote some parliamentarians. If you really think about it, there are over 650 parliamentarians. But the constant negativity only comes from maybe less than 20 of them out of 650. And that has consistently happened. We need to understand this. You must not allow us to be subsumed by this whole thing, as if the entire Britain is consumed by this. Not at all. If you think about it, Britain is our second highest source of tourists to the country. Of the million tourists we had last year, 114,600 were from the UK. They come, they love our country. They're coming in increasing amounts. And I'm proud to say as a Sri Lankan that every transaction in the London Stock Exchange today is run on Sri Lankan software. What a wonderful thing that is. And we have a tremendous educational relationship between the two countries. So I don't think we should get too fazed by comments that are made, particularly if we understand that comments are made partly to pacify domestic electoral compulsions. You have to always look at, when a leader makes a statement, just look at this. Just ask yourself the question, when is his next election? And then you have your answer. So I think irrespective of what someone says about it, that does not in any way justify.
You've been holding office as the High Commissioner of Britain for a period of 2 years, and during these 2 periods in question there has been many reports, many documentaries released by Channel 4, and the government has stressed that these footage are fabricated and have reiterated that these footage have no basis at all. As the High Commissioner of London, have you taken any steps to challenge this in a court of law in Britain?
Successive High Commissioners, including myself, including the government of Sri Lanka, has looked at it from a legal perspective. But you know, many people, in a democracy, many people will have divergent opinions. Many people will have negative as well as positive publicity. Channel 4 is an extremely marginal TV company. In Britain, the significant percentage of British people, and I lived there for 28 years, do not in any way even bother to look at Channel 4. That's probably why it's called Channel 4 and not Channel 1, 2 and 3. And I really don't understand why so many of you in Sri Lanka get so worked up about it. If you ask the average person, whenever Channel 4 has shown a documentary on Sri Lanka, you know, people here get sort of quite irate about it, and justifiably so. But the point is, we all realize, as well as the majority of people there, this is not a documentary. If you look at it, it's more like Star Wars in terms of fiction. It's very emotive. It's very emotionally disturbing. But it is not responsible journalism. And when you start off, you realize that. You realize, for example, the main actor, Vani Kumar, you know, portrayed as an innocent graduate, was actually, you know, had very strong LTT and Elam activist links. So your answer starts from there. From there, you realize if the outcome is prejudged, then there is no little purpose in itself. Many people have looked at it. We've seen that a lot of the metadata has been erased. We've seen that a lot of the sequences have been reversed. A lot of the footage, even the original footage showing purported soldiers but wearing slippers, for example, has been erased from the footage. And there are many aspects to it which have been challenged. But the point is, it is very much a peripheral documentary. If you look at the second documentary of it, it is something like 80 to 90% a repeat of the first. If you look at the third documentary, that's again 80 to 90% a repeat of the second. So I wouldn't call it a documentary. It is unauthenticated, uncorroborated, and not a second of it has been actually filmed originally from a Channel 4 journalist or an ITN journalist. So it ends there.